Hello, and thank you for being on Talk with Lucy. Today, I am with Barbara Wilson. I have known Barbara for a long time and have known her story, and today she's going to tell us a little bit more about it. Some of the things that I don't know. Barbara, hi, and thank you so much for agreeing to do this with me today.
Well, thank you so much for making time in your schedule. I very much appreciate it. I'm not always so comfortable talking about me personally, so this will be kind of a unique experience for me.
Well, it's unique for me too because we're actually in Burbank where I was raised, and we are at the Fred Films Inc. in Burbank studios, so I'm happy to be back home. But back to what I have a book here that we're going to talk about that you wrote. Oddly enough, I read this book before knowing that you wrote it. And Alex gave it to me because I just bought this book. You and I have a lot of similarities. And I would like for you to start anywhere you want on your story.
Well, I can give you kind of the high level resume kind of thing. So I'm an old lady, I'm an old fart, have no problem owning that space. And I've been told, don't tell people you're old. Yes, I'm old. I'm grateful to be old because there are times when I was very, very ill, and so I'm lucky to have lived long enough to get old. So I am a daughter, grew up in Jim Crow South, during the 50s. I'm a 50s girl. I grew up in, with the one television with mom and dad and the kids all sitting around the one big television with the little screen in black and white. That is my childhood, looking at Lassie,
Me too.
and westerns and Sky King, so that is my era. The Mickey Mouse Club, the American Bandstand. I remember when it started. Okay, I was in junior high.
Soul Train?
Soul Train I did not discover. That's not my childhood. That's my young adulthood. My parents were nice enough to let me escape from the South, so I went to college in the Midwest. Got married. That's what we used to do, and got divorced. Went
How
to
many
graduate
children did you
school.
have when you married?
The first marriage, I have a son, and that is the son that had some mental health challenges. Ultimately, my second husband, which is how I came to California, was I was actually working in another state, but we knew each other from high school, and back in those days we used language like soulmate, and so
Yeah.
I was convinced that he was my soulmate because we each graduated high school, went to different universities, married different people, and then through an unusual set of circumstances, I discovered that he was no longer married, sort of, kind of. So I took that as a sign. That's
Yeah.
how we used to think, and and then I was on it, and I came out here to California, which was, by the way, the number one state in the country at that time. Literally everyone in my graduate School of Social Work class wanted to work in California because it was the number one state that was doing all these creative things in something called community psychiatry. And so we all wanted to be here. My second year, I trained at the medical school, which was the equivalent of MPI out here. And so I trained with the people that were going to be future psychiatrists, future clinical psychologists.
So you have training in psychology.
Clinical social work.
Wow. So cut to you have a son. And how did you know? Did you find out on your own, or did someone tell you that your son had a mental health issue?
It was kind of like the last to know, which is sort of embarrassing for all of the parents out there who think they shoulda, coulda known, if only they had known this, or why didn't they connect the dots. I was a working professional in psychiatric social work. And still, I did not understand that my son had serious mental illness.
Do you mind telling me what the illness is?
He had bipolar disorder.
Okay, bipolar 1?
Oh, I don't know. I don't get it.
Okay, you don't get
That's
into
all
that.
before my time.
Okay, so you know
In
he
my
had...
time, there was just one diagnosis. This is
How old
sort
was
of
he when you found out he had bipolar?
Gosh, we had gone through a few hospitals.
Yeah.
And I had never really asked about his diagnosis because I was the person that was schlepping. I was schlepping his stuff to the hospital, filling out his forms, and then picking him up. And, I was the schlepper.
So what year are we talking about here?
Oh, gosh. He died about 12 years ago. So, the early aughts, I would say.
Early what?
The aughts, the 2000s.
Okay. So early 2000s, you find out that he has bipolar.
And that was kind of like accidental that I found that out because I wasn't really focused on what is his diagnosis like a lot of people are. I just watched him going downhill and getting more and more and more depressed. And, thinking it would clear up.
Like a cold.
Like the flu.
Yeah.
And, I was aware of mental health as a global kind of phenomenon, and I was certainly aware of it with people that were not related to me. But
because they were saying things to you?
But also my son was an adult, so he wasn't living at home all the time. In fact, most of the time he graduated from college, he had his own life, he was not necessarily living locally. So I would see him bits and snatches.
I want to get into a little bit about, because they say that bipolar is one day you're happy and you're so excited and you want to do everything, and then another day you're just, for a few days, you're depressed, you're locked in your room. Was that the case with your son, or was it mostly depressed?
I would almost have to say depends on the period of his life. Because when he was in high school, he was voted Party Animal of the Year. I was really upset with him. I'm like, he wanted to go to college in San Diego, and I'm like, absolutely not.
Party school.
You are not going to go in any university located in San Diego County. Absolutely not. So, send him to a very small private school. But he was that person that your party didn't start until he got there. Mm-hmm. So he made your party, according to his friends. Now, I'm the mom, so a lot of this information has come to me after the fact, not during when it was going on. And then he went off to college. He was an exchange student. He did all these wonderful things.
How was he academically? I'm curious.
Absolutely. He was great.
Star student.
Yeah, he was an exchange student to the London School of Economics. He was, I think, the youngest person that graduated from his university in international economics. So he was brilliant. He was funny. Had a wonderful sense of humor.
Very intelligent. Now,
very bright. I have not met the person that has that particular diagnosis that is not bright.
Me neither. I mean, I'm hearing about this for the first time. You always hear of bipolar in a different way. My next question to you would be, how long did it take from the time he moves out, he's living on his own, when did you find out that things were going downhill?
Kind of, you look at it in retrospect and it's like, well, there it was there. Well, there it was there. Well, surely how did I miss that? Yeah. But when I was living forward, it was his friends came to me and said, we think he has an alcohol problem. Yeah. And I'm like, okay, let's get you some alcohol treatment. And so that was, and my solution to his life was, you just need to stop drinking and your life will be okay. That was my solution for his problem. And he had periods of sobriety. He got into various programs. But I know so many parents will resonate with me, or family members. We hear this phrase, just one beer. Every time he began to decompensate, it always started with that phrase, I'm gonna have one beer. And it would be off and running, you know.
Because they can't just have one beer.
Well, one beer leads to another beer, which leads to 5 more beers, or
Oh.
whatever it leads to. But I was so focused on the beer
Yeah.
and busy counting his beers
Yeah.
and coming up with solutions for him not drinking that I completely missed that underlying part of this person is just completely depressed. And this is just his coping strategy.
So how old is he when all of a sudden it's full blown and you see that something's really wrong?
Oh, we started with the hospitalizations around 30, when he was about 30.
What did he do that caused you to hospitalize him?
Oh, he was so depressed, he was suicidal.
Okay.
He called me up one Sunday morning, and he said, "Mom, I can't seem to do anything right. Last night I tried to die, and I'm still awake."
Jeez.
And I'm like, "What?" So I went over to his apartment, and he had taken a bottle of over-the-counter medications, and I'm like, I think we need to have you consider going to a hospital.
Yeah.
So I took him to a
Mental
hospital. At that time, he had good insurance. He still had a good job. All of that over time went away. But at that time, he still had all of those things in place. And they put him on a hold.
5150.
5150. But it was not traumatic because I took him in. He was willing to go.
Yeah. Did they diagnose him?
I'm sure they did, but I was not interested in all of the mechanics. I just wanted him to be safe.
Yeah.
And not die.
Yeah.
And from there were several, hospitalizations after that. And one of the saddest hospitalizations was when I watched him begin to give away the stuff that I know he cared about. I was there with his dad and his sister, and he cared very much. He had a huge music collection because he was very into music on the business side. So he had a huge collection of books and CDs that he accumulated over the years. And he started to tell his sister, "You can just have all that stuff." And his favorite bicycle, "You can have that too." And I thought, he's planning to die.
Something. Going
So,
on.
And then we started with the hospitals that by the time he didn't have great insurance, it was like, well, he's not really benefiting from the hospital, so you should come and get him and pick him up. And I'm like, he is psychotic. He is hearing voices that tell him to die, and you're telling me to come get him?
Okay, so bipolar and psychotic. So he was hearing voices that were telling him it's time
to die.
Yeah.
That he's not worth anything, that why is he still here?
Yeah.
And so where do you draw the line? Where, if you're the family member, where do you figure out, well, where's the psychosis? What is mental illness, and what is the psychiatric, what is the alcoholism?
What did you need at the time that you wished, like, if you had, a magic wand?
If I'd had a magic wand, I would have wished for more honesty within the
mental health department.
within the mental health system.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean that they don't do what they do within the confines of, they have restrictions on how they deliver services. But for 3 years, I didn't know where my son was.
Was it because of HIPAA?
I didn't know what it was for. Because again, we live life forward. Looking backward, I could find some answers. But going forward, I just didn't know where my son was. And it almost killed me. I didn't know if he was so psychotic that he couldn't figure out how to call home. Or did he not know his name? Where was he? Was he even in the state? Was he even in the county? Because he had a tendency to travel. One time I didn't know where he was, and he called me from Honolulu. I'm like, how'd you get there?
How did you find your son?
I got a phone call one afternoon from somebody asking me, a female,
Yeah.
asked me, do you know blah, blah, blah? And I said, of course, that's my son. And she said, oh, well, we need you to come identify his body. He died 2 days ago. So that's how I found out where he was.
Where was he?
He was in the hospital in Los Angeles.
Thank God, at least he was here.
So I would have traveled wherever he was. But, and the interesting thing was, part of this is because I'm a social worker and I've been around the block a few times. So this person who called me told me I have to come right now. I'm like, no, I don't have to come right now. That's the part of being a social worker that maybe other family members might not know. But I'm like, no, it's middle of the afternoon. The traffic is going to be horrible for me to come into the city because I live in the burbs. And I'm probably not going to be driving my best thinking that this might be my son who is dead. So no, I'll wait until tomorrow when the traffic has died down. And she said, well, you have to come now. I said, no, I don't have to come now. If that is my son, he'll be just as dead tomorrow as he is today. And so I'm not coming.
Why do you feel that that was your answer? Like thinking back now. Really, was it because of the traffic?
Yes.
Or was it more
yes.
because you didn't want to know?
Well, that obviously had a lot to do with it, but I don't think I've been, a social worker
Prepared.
a really long time.
Yeah.
And so I know, I always think risk factors, maybe I shouldn't, but I always think risk factors.
All right.
So you don't put someone who might be in a heightened state of anxiety
In a car.
In heavy traffic. That's high risk.
Okay.
So it's lower risk if I wait until less traffic. I have some time to kind of gather myself, maybe take another person with me for support. I don't know. I need to put things in place.
So let's take it, just because we have 2 minutes left, let's take it from the point where you see your son, you know it's him, and then how you react after that. Like what comes after that with the book, and hindsight's 2020, but what happens?
Well, first off, when I got to the hospital, I had a probably 2 to 3 hour fight with the hospital administration because I wanted to see my son to make sure that really was him.
Yeah.
And they were saying, oh, no, you can't see his body. We just want you to sign. And I'm like, no, I'm not doing it.
But didn't they tell you to come and recognize them?
Exactly. So now you're seeing some of the disjointed process of what it's like as a family member.
Yeah.
They call me, they want me to sign and move the body. That was really the motive. They called me because someone needed to sign off and take the body out of the hospital. That was the whole motive. It was financial.
So with the people that I have talked to, there's kind of a silver lining in everything. Even in your story, which we're going to talk about, and I think we have a minute left that we can discuss. Yours didn't turn out great. You found your son, but you found him lifeless. So what does Barbara do, let's say a month later, 2 months, a year, I know you were at the commission meetings, at every meeting, talking about this thing about how you can't find your son and how different departments should talk to each other. They're in silos, you don't know. I was interpreting all those things. So now the Barbara, let's talk, well, I don't know how long it took you, 3 months, 1 month?
Well, the immediate thing, as a social worker, I had lots of experience working with families in active grief.
Yeah.
But I had no experience as a family member being involved in that very early stages of what do you do with the body? Who do you call? Do we call the morgue? Do you find a funeral home? I had no money. That was the other thing. I mean, I had my Social Security.
Right.
So all of that process was very overwhelming in a sense. I mean, thank goodness for people, good friends, my ex-husband. Um, he said, you know, let's go together. This is our son, and that came as a surprise. But you know,
So when you I guess I'm trying to get to when you got through that and then you came Barbara again. I mean, I lost a son and I was out of it for 3 months.
I did not. I did not. I
Okay.
did not. I already had started doing advocacy work, helping other families before all of this happened.
Yeah.
And so, what I did after my son died was just to continue on with my advocacy work. And I just put my son in a little lockbox
Yeah.
in my heart.
That's where I
And
have
I
my.
just-
Did you have like he has one foot, in the box, and then the other foot he's alive, and it's a 50-50 whether he's going to make it or not when he was missing and when you were looking for him, or did that not happen?
No, I just you have to remember that by the time my son died and I knew that he was dead, he was 43. So that's my heart bleeds for for those parents. You know, I met a parent whose son was having issues, and he was only 13, and they were not sure if that kid was going to make it.
Yeah.
And what I can say is I'm really grateful for all those years that I had my son alive and funny, and we can look back on some of the things he did at the Renaissance Fair. He was always this charismatic person, and he
I
was
used to
able
love the Renaissance
you know,
Fair.
he was able to draw a crowd demanding water for the crowd, and it was a really hot day, and pretty soon there were 3 or 4 people chanting with him, and the next thing I knew, there was a whole crowd of people chanting along with my son, water for the crowd, water for the crowd. I mean, that was my son. He was very charismatic.
I love the fact that that's your takeaway.
So, but in terms of having an active period of grief after he died, I did not.
Okay.
I just kept moving forward.
And then this came along.
That is because of COVID.
While you were in COVID, like many of us, and we're figuring out what to do,
I
you
had
wrote a
peop-
book called The Mental Health Handbook.
Yes, I wrote it for family members.
Yes, and the reason that it says handbook is probably because it's not the easiest thing to go through the system, right?
Right.
You can't navigate that so easily.
It is hard to navigate.
Okay.
And one of the things that I people have been telling me for years, oh, you need to write a book. And I'm like, I don't have time. Well, COVID came, I had time.
Yep.
And I wanted to answer some of the questions that I had, because I had been retired. And I came back, I want to say to work, but because I work for free, really. I don't get paid. Someday maybe I will, but I came because a few people knew what I had done before I retired, and they asked me for help. And I'm like, well, just go to da-da-da and da-da-da, and they would come back and go, we couldn't find it. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
They started doing warm handoffs.
so I said, okay, let me ride with you and let me see what you're experiencing. And that was the biggest, it was like going to Berlin after World War II bombing. Nothing that I was accustomed to being in the community was there anymore. Everything was gone. And I'm like, oh my gosh.
So you're finding solace in helping others.
I was already helping others.
Yeah.
And then after my son died, I just kicked it into higher gear.
Put it in
Because
the
I would not
fifth
want
gear.
any family to go through what I went through. I went through it with professional training about people that have serious mental illness. I can only imagine what a family would experience that has none of my information, none of my training, and they're supposed to encounter and engage in a way to advocate for their adult child. And when they do advocate, they can get labeled as overbearing, over-intrusive,
Oh, yeah.
Helicopter mom and all of that. And all they want to do is keep their kid alive.
Well, needless to say, this has been a very different interview from all the ones I've had. And actually, they're all fascinating in their own way. But I always end this way because there's a nugget in everything that we do. There's a little gold nugget that people can pull back on, if not 10. What would you say? What in 30 seconds? Like, what could you say to a parent that is watching, or a wife or a husband that has gone through something like this, looking for your loved one for 3 years, knowing that he's or she is having difficulty, and then finally getting that call? I'll never forget when you were at the commission and you said, I'd heard you for 5 years going, I can't find my son, I can't find my son. And then that day I heard you say, I found my son, and he's been dead for 3 weeks. And what would you say?
And he was involved with the Department of Mental Health all of that time. And we had a missing persons report out with the LA County Sheriff's Department.
Remember
so
that.
there was all of those pieces. It wasn't just that we didn't know where he was.
Of course. So what would you just say to a parent that, because you have gone through this, definitely scathed, but look at you now. So what can you say?
I would say don't give up hope and connect with other parents. I have connections with parents up and down the state of California and even outside of California. There's a group called Angry Moms. I'm a part of them. We protest. We are pushing for policy change. Don't give up. If it doesn't help your kid, it may help some other parent's kid. So don't give up.
You heard it right here from Barbara Wilson. Even though she's been through all of this, she's telling you, don't give up.
No, don't
So
give up.
thank you so much for being with Talk with Lucy. And Barbara, I love you. Thank you so much for
Thank you
doing
for
this.
having me.
I want to thank Barbara for taking the time to do this. I know it wasn't easy. I want to thank the people at Fred Films Inc. here in Burbank for giving us this space. And I'm so grateful for how things are going with you. And I hope that we stay in touch because I'm going to need your help.
Anytime. And thank you for having me.